is Monica Stevens, and this is my oral history final project for AFAM 399 DL2. The subject of my project is I selected the Million Man March, which happened Monday, October 16th, 1995. And the person that I chose to interview for this is my husband, the one and only.
Hello.
David Stevens. He is a Navy veteran and he attended the Million Man March. So if you're not familiar with the Million Man March, it was a call by Louis Farrakhan. If you don't know who Louis Farrakhan is, I suggest you look it up. He's very interesting. He's a activist. Would you call him an activist?
I would say activist.
Okay, yeah, he was an activist, and he called upon it for 1 million men. He didn't necessarily say black, but 1 million men to show unity and family, solidarity for it. So, without further ado, I am going to allow my husband to tell you guys about it. He has always been very passionate about Black history, and for us, Black history is Black joy. So I'm going to allow my husband. The first thing I want to ask is maybe the only thing, because he is full of conversation in regards to the Million Man March. We were stationed here. We just happened to be stationed here at the Pentagon when he was on active duty, and his little brother in Philadelphia called up and said that he asked him if he was going to be going, that he would be very interested in going to the Million Man March. And of course David was going, so he told him to come on up. So it was him and his little brother and a couple of his friends. And again, it was Monday, and just so you guys know, I do have some little visuals here before I get him talking, because I may not be able to show you, but here's the original newspaper article from the Million Man March. It was published by the Washington Post, Monday, October 16th, 1995. And this particular page had the entire downtown, the Million Man March, layout, everything. So if you could go to any archives and look it up, it would be great. But we have it. It's our souvenir. So for my husband, David, the first thing I would like to ask is, what did the Million Man March mean to you?
Wow. Good question. What I'll say is this. To see 1 million Black men come from all over the country, traveling by bus, car, some walked, some brought their kids, some brought their grandparents, grandfathers. It was an awesome sight. And the fond memory that I have of it is we rode the metro into Washington, D.C. And upon entering that metro, we saw signs. Most people carry signs from where they were from. We saw Los Angeles, people from Los Angeles, Chicago, Seattle, Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Miami, Florida, all Boston, Philadelphia, Detroit, a list of all cities, rural towns, small towns, and just to see the large number of Blacks. I've never in my life seen so many Black people in one place. It was awesome. No trouble. Everybody gave high fives. Everybody wanted to know where you were from. And just the experience was unbelievable.
So, first of all, let's go back to the morning. the morning of the Million Man March. What time did you wake up? When you arrived at the metro, what metro station did you arrive at? Were you close to Washington, D.C.? How far was it? What was the mood at the metro when you got on the train? What was the mood? Let's start there. First, I know I asked you a lot of questions. That was a mouthful. So let's start with waking up the morning. How did you feel in anticipation, knowing that you were going to the Million Man March? And we have two sons who were young at the time.
Yeah.
Did they ask questions like, what was the vibe? Or, as one would say, how did you feel when you woke up?
Okay. That morning, actually, we prepared for this trip to Washington about, I'd say, a week or so prior to the event.
Okay.
My brother, Booby, called me from Philadelphia. He said, "Hey, Dave, I'd like to bring my other brother, Carl, and a friend of theirs. They would like to come down and go to the Million Man March."
Okay.
And I said, "Of course." So I was debating whether or not I wanted to take my two kids. They were young at the time. One, I believe, was 4. The other one was about 9. And I was nervous because I didn't want to lose them in such a large crowd. So I decided to leave them home.
Is that a regret?
Yes, it is a regret. I do. Looking back at it, I wish I had taken them because I seen other fathers and grandparents taking their kids and grandkids, and I said, "Wow, I wish I would have took I wish I would have took my kids," and I do regret that.
Okay.
So I was excited. I woke up early in the morning. I remember my brother knocked on the door, and we high-fived, and everybody was excited. And just hearing on the news, man, the buses are coming. It's a 10-mile backup on I-95. They're coming by train. They're coming by buses, cars, and it's just a level of excitement, man. I couldn't wait to get there.
Would you say it brought to you in anticipation what some would call black joy?
Oh yes, no question. No question. It was well organized. Again, they prepared for this thing for about several months. Yeah. And again, my brother and them came. They knocked on the door. Mm-hmm. We got in the car. I remember we ate breakfast. We got in the car. We drove. We had to drive about 10 miles to the nearest metro center to take the train into D.C. Okay. Because at that time, we have a closer metro now. Mm-hmm. That wasn't built back then. So we had to drive a little bit further. And when we got there, oh man, just to see so many black men just waiting to board the train. And again, everybody was carrying signs of where they were from. And we were just high-fiving. Good to see you. It was just fun. And we were laughing and joking. And it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scene. So we get on the metro. We get down to what they call the mall area. That's down there where the Capitol is. And once you get off the train, it is hundreds of thousands of people just walking around. You see the speakers set up for the stage, the speakers for the where the guest speakers, and all of them were walking past, and just you was just in a maze. You were like, wow, look at this. 1 million people were there.
So you believe it was actually 1 million?
Oh, no question. No question. I've never in my life witnessed anything like that. And you was just excited, just walking around, meeting people, talking to people, listening to the guest speakers. And it was beautiful.
Okay. So was there actually a march, or was there so many people that y'all basically couldn't move? Because they say the Million Man March. So was it actually a march, or was it basically they underestimated that there were going to be 1 million people. Because I can't imagine 1 million people marching.
No, we all gathered on the mall. It's a huge grass area down there.
So there was essentially no march.
It wasn't a march. The term was a 1 million man march. But again, like you said, I think they underestimated the number of people that would actually attend. And when you got down there, you could barely move. It was so many people. You had to pretty much stay in a spot if you wanted to hear or see one of the guest speakers. So we just sat around and listened. Most of the time was just listening to the different speakers.
So did you have any conversations with other men from other states or was the atmosphere so friendly that people were just talking to each other or saying hello, or what was that experience like?
Oh man, it was beautiful. Again, people were walking around with signs from their city, state, or wherever they came from. And I can remember meeting guys that came from California. They said they spent 4 days on a Greyhound.
Wow.
Or some took Amtrak and they spent 3 or 4 days on the Amtrak. And I couldn't believe everybody came that far to this event. And, again, we walked around and we just struck up conversation with different people. And how was your experience traveling here? And they would tell us, oh, man, it was long, but it's worth it. We were hungry and, we ate here. And it was beautiful. No fighting, no arguments. It was all love and unity. And we enjoyed it.
So do you remember any of the speakers? Were there any speakers in particular that caught your attention and you remember anything that they said that was profound for you?
Yes. There was a young speaker. I want to say his age was either 10 or 12.
Oh, wow.
He was a young guy. Very, very, very intelligent. He had an afro. And he was articulate with his words, and he was speaking unity and how we should continue, stand together, taking care of our families, and staying out of jail and working hard and becoming educated. And he spoke on those things. Become fathers of your household. And that right there, I left there thinking, wow, how can this young child speak with such authority? And it was beautiful to see.
Okay. So, did you see any women?
I did see a few women walking around there, and I was like, wow, I thought this was a 1 million man march for men. But there were women that showed up.
Well,
and I didn't.
Well, honey, women.
I know. I know there were women walking around, and not many, but there were women. And, I just remember saying, what are they doing here? I thought this was our march. But, we didn't bother them or treat them bad.
So, how long do you think you guys actually stood out there and listened?
It was long. I remember that. My feet was tired. My back was tired. And you couldn't hardly move. I mean, you had to literally stay in one spot because it was so crowded. And you had to get in a good position to see and listen.
Okay.
Because, you had some people that were taller than you. You had to kind of maneuver around them. And I would say, if I had to put a time, I would say we were down there 4 or 5 hours, maybe.
Wow.
4 or 5 hours. I mean, we walked around because we had to use the restroom and things like that. But again, it was beautiful to see. The speeches were wonderful. The security around the place was good, and again, it was a beautiful spot.
So, in walking around, seeing the beautiful experience, meeting all types of people, what were you actually thinking?
My initial reaction was, I hope no one starts shooting or fighting, because you would get stomped over. It was so many there was nowhere to run to or hide. It was that many people. And the whole time I was thinking, I need to find a safe area to go if something were to break out. A tree or somewhere just where I can hide behind a tree. But it turned out we had no issues. There were no reported fights. Just think, out of 1 million people, there were no fights, no arguments, no nothing.
So what do you think the Million Man March meant to black men then and now?
It meant that we could do anything we can do anything we want. I mean, just think. 1 million black men came together for that day. There were no problems, no arguments. They spoke on unity, which I'm big on fatherhood. I love kids and fathers that take care of their responsibility. So for them to preach about that, that stuck with me. I said, I'm going to go home and become a better father. And I was hoping that all of the men there could take that same attitude back to their cities and feel how I felt.
Okay.
So, but unfortunately it didn't happen. It after a few days, they went back to the city, crime, they started, all the things that they preached, they went against. And that was the sad part about it.
So do you think, I know that the Million Man March is history for us, for black people. I mean, some people like to call it African American, but for black people, Million Man March was historic. In your opinion, based on your love of history, African American history particularly, and all these books that you probably have read, do you think the Million Man March, this information on it and everything you know about it right now, should be in the history books? This should be taught. Our grandchildren should know about it.
Oh, no, most definitely they should know about this, because again, I don't think that we'll ever see another Million Man March again in my lifetime. And that's why, me personally, I think it should be in the histories that we were able to gather 100 men, black men. There were no problems, and we spoke of unity, fatherhood, responsibility, and education. So, to me, I don't think it'll ever happen again. And I think it should be taught in history classes.
In history class. Okay, well, lastly, for me, is there anything else you want to tell my class and everybody else looking how you feel about the Million Man March, what it meant to you, and why you think it's the epitome of black joy? Or your black joy?
Again, I think that the Million Man March was meant, and that the purpose of it, or the intention of it, was to unite black men, come together, talk about responsibilities, talk about education, talk about fatherhood, taking care of your family, being the head of your family. And what I took back from that was, I lived off those principles. So I had hoped that all of us could have done that. Went back to our towns, our cities, our states, and just took care of their responsibility. And like I say, it's unfortunate that it didn't occur. However, I know some listen, probably thousands listen. but there were thousands that didn't listen. So I think that it should be more of these marches, just to get them. If you can save 5, 10, 15, 20, 30,000 or whatever, it's better than none. So me personally, I think that it was needed and it's still needed.
Okay.
And it shouldn't, I mean, this has been what, almost 30 years, 25, 30 years.
1995.
And we haven't had another one.
I thought we had one more, but it wasn't as large.
I think they had a smaller version, but it didn't turn out the way that this turned out.
Okay.
And I think it's a reflection of leaders. We need stronger leaders.
Okay.
We need young people to take charge, you know. And again, what this Million Man March meant to me was we can do anything we want if we put our minds to it. And you know, the key to it is education. Has to start with education. We have to educate ourselves, because if we educate ourselves, there's nothing we can't do.
So do you think our ancestors were proud of the Million Man March?
Oh, if they could have seen it, yes. They would have had a hard time believing that we all came together and there were no issues.
Okay.
But the purpose behind it, excellent. Excellent and on point.
So if they had a Million Man March, they were having it April 15th. Would you prepare for it? What would you do different that you did then? And would you attend? Because we're even at a different political point in the country right now. Like, everything is completely different than it was in 1995. This is 2023. So everything is different. Everything is looked at different. We may have a little bit more cohesiveness now, but things are still different. And in order to keep Black joy visible and understandable to the young, I just would like to know if you would do anything different than you did October 15th, the day before the Million Man March, that you would do. Would you do it different? And if you could answer that.
The only thing different that I would do, and I said it earlier, I would have taken my kids.
Okay, so you talked about how you felt when you got off the train, how you felt down there walking around. How long did the feeling of excitement, being proud, the feeling of joy, the feeling of solidarity and unity, how long did that feeling last after you left? After everybody was gone, you know, you guys went back, I'm sure you high-fived and, you know, shook hands and hugged. And when it was over, how did you feel when you got back on the train, got home? What were you thinking?
Oh man, we couldn't stop talking about it. We were like, man, that was beautiful, man. Just meeting people. I mean, all shades of black, light, dark, brown, you name it. I mean, we couldn't believe it. It was to this day, even 2023, when I think about it, it brings joy to me to see that amount of blacks that came together and just being around each other, just holding conversations, no arguing, you felt the love, and that's what I got out of it more than anything. And I took that. I'm trying to think. That was October 16th. I felt that way a good 2 months. Yeah, October 16th.
You thought back October 16th.
Yeah, I thought back October 16th. And I wish that we could have done more, On that day, it was, I'd say, we're down there a total of maybe 4 to 8 hours. Mm-hmm. And I think, looking back, that they should have extended it 2, 3, 4 days. Made it a huge event where, each day we could have took our kids or relatives or friends or whoever and just walked around the different monuments and just got a history lesson, and just exchange numbers with people. I think we should have did more of that, and we didn't, because there were good people there, and at that time we weren't thinking that way. It was a short conversation, and we went our separate ways. But looking back, I wish we would have exchanged numbers and kept in touch. Maybe we could have uplifted each other somehow, some way, and and that's the one thing that I wish we have done. I done.
So, how do you think the Million Man March contributed to your life? What contribution did it make to your life going forward and in the future? Like, do certain things happen? Like when you saw the George Floyd and all the other things, does your mind automatically, because at this march, I understand, I wasn't present, but I understand from you, it was very peaceful. Regardless to all the things that had happened before that. The speakers were, when they got up there and they spoke, they basically spoke about solidarity, peace, family, values. What contribution do you think being present made in your life?
Well, how it affected me was, I left there saying, whatever my father didn't teach me, I was going to ensure that I taught that to my kids.
Okay.
And that's what I left there because I think that, parents, we don't have all the answers, but I wanted to take back, as you get older, you realize my father didn't do this. I need to make sure that I do this for my kid. And that's what I left there thinking, this is what I want to do with my 2 kids.
Okay.
And I wanted to become a better father. Just listening to the speeches. I mean, they talked about, take responsibilities, lead by example. And as you know, I took on that responsibility. I enjoyed being with my kids. To this day, I love being with my kids. So that's what I took away from attending that march.
So you think Minister Farrakhan's motivation for doing what he did when he called for 1 million men, do you think he was happy, satisfied, and he feels like the mission was accomplished? In your opinion, what do you think?
For that day,
yes.
I thought he was very proud of the turnout. Again, there were no problems, no issues, and that was a reflection of him and his staff.
Okay.
And again, it's hard to contain 1 million people, yet alone blacks in general.
I get it.
And for us to do that, that's probably unprecedented. Nothing. We probably never had an event in the history of the United States where we had that many people and no problems. There were not one problem reported for that many people. And I think that he was proud of that, for at least that day anyway. I don't know how he felt afterwards. I can only speak on me. I wish that we had continued the lessons that were taught from that meeting and continued on. But again, some of it fell by the wayside. Some of it, some of us, we took on that role and the responsibility of the things that were taught. So again, I think he was satisfied with how that event turned out that day.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to tell us about the Million Man March? Anything. This interview has been wonderful. I knew you could do it.
Thank you.
Of course, you'll do anything for your wife. But I loved, when I saw this project, I knew that I didn't even think twice. Because the thing that you talk about most and that you pride yourself on is being a proud black man from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You love black history. So when I saw this project, I said, this is easy. Million Man March. I have my interviewee living right in the house with me. Thank you so much for doing this interview. And thank you for saving this.
Oh, yeah.
This is priceless.
It is.
It's probably not many people that actually saved.
And I can actually tell you where we stood.
Where did you stand?
We stood right about this area here.
So near Independence Avenue, what is that? Independence Avenue?
Here.
Oh, that is nice.
It was beautiful.
Show that to me again.
Right around this area here.
The?
That's where we street in between 7th and, what was that, 9th? Right around that area.
And you stood there for the entire time?
Most of the time, yes. Again, it was so crowded you had to pick a spot and stay there. Unless you had to find a restroom. This was a very important day in history. October 16, 1995. And the one thing that I wish that I would have done, looking back, is taking more pictures.
What, did they have cell phones
I didn't
back then?
take, no, even with the old Polaroid, we didn't take pictures. I guess we were so excited, we just wanted to get there and see.
So it wasn't like
But-
technology now. Everybody
Right.
had their phones
If we had
out,
cell phones,
selfie
oh, yeah,
and all
yeah.
that. So you didn't have all that back
Technology
then.
was not there. And to see the faces of my brother and their friends, oh man, they talked about it. Man, I miss it. Matter of fact, my brother brought it up just the other day where he said, Dave, you got any pictures of the Million Man March? I said, I don't believe it. I said, I got the newspaper clipping, but I don't have any pictures. But he really enjoyed it.
And how old was your brother then when?
Oh, 95, I think I was 28 at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I think I was going on 29. Yeah, I was 28 going on 29. I think he had to be 24,
Okay.
23, 24. So, yeah, we were young men and we were excited. We were really, really, really excited. And we knew that this would be history. And I'm hoping that one day we can bring that level of excitement again. I'm hoping.
For the purpose of peace, solidarity,
Unity,
fatherhood, absolutely.
responsibility.
Yes.
Those are the words. I mean, I really focused on those.
So when I read this, I guess I never really looked at the paper. This little information that they have on it, they got questions and answers about today's event. And it starts off with, what is the Million Man March? And this is the definition that the Washington Post gave us. And it says, a holy day of atonement and reconciliation. Its sponsors say, that's what the sponsors say, Black men should make amends for their absence from their families, churches, and communities, says Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan. The rally will emphasize the condition of Black men in American society. So, and I guess it answered my question. Remember, I asked you the question, was there actually a march? And that's a question here. Where is the march? It says there actually is no march. It is a rally with speeches and music in the mall, extending 23 blocks from the west front of the U.S. Capitol past the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial. And they questioned, will a million men be there? I can remember the news afterward. And I remember the news saying that they didn't think it was a million men. This was before you guys got home. And it was, I remember it's the first question I asked you. Was there a million men? And I remember your face and those eyes lit up. It was like you were on a continuous high. And you were like, was there?
Yeah.
It was more than a million men.
I've never seen that mall filled.
To this day.
To this day, I've never seen that mall. And I've been down there hundreds of times. I've never seen that mall the way it was on.
Well, the Washington Post says, no one knows how many people will attend the march. March organizers and city officials have given conflicting estimates ranging from 500,000 to a million. One of the largest political demonstrations in Washington was in 1969, the Vietnam War protests that drew 600,000 people.
It had to be more than that.
So you know that.
I know. I don't know what a million looks like, but man, that was a lot.
Okay. Any famous Black leaders or movie stars or?
There were, I just can't remember.
You can't remember?
I can't. There were some there. I know that for a fact. I can't.
Did any of them speak? Who spoke? Do you remember the names? So you said.
I can't remember.
You don't remember? That's too long ago?
Like I say, I can remember your Jesse's, your
Jesse Jackson,
Reverend Al
Sharpton,
the minister Louis Farrakhan.
Louis Farrakhan.
And I wish I could remember the name of the young man that spoke. And I can Google it and find out. I know he was about 10 or 12. He had a nice sized afro. And man, you talking articulate.
Where was he from? Do you remember that?
I don't know where he was from.
Okay. Did we have any leaders or the mayor or any one from Washington, D.C.?
I believe Marion Barry was there, the former mayor of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Wow, I can't believe I can't remember who. There were tons of famous people there. I just can't remember off the top.
Okay.
Who were there? But they were there. I don't recall any famous singers. I know there were some singers there. I just can't. I want to say Stevie Wonder was there.
Okay, Stevie Wonder.
I can't remember off the top. I want to say he was there and he sang. There were some gospel groups there. A again, the only people I remember clearly was Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and the Minister Louis Farrakhan, and like I said, the young kids stood out. But there were other great speakers. I just can't.
Were they all male speakers?
All male.
All male.
But I believe there were some female speakers too.
You just don't recall it.
I just can't recall it off the top.
Okay.
But there were great speakers.
So was down at the National Mall where it was held at the National Mall.
Yes.
Down at the National Mall, was business open? Was all the business open, or did they close things?
They had vendors out
Vendors
serving food and stuff like that.
selling stuff.
Yeah. I mean, again, because we were basically on the mall. So they had the guys selling hats, Million Man T-shirts, hats, and things like that. It was a beautiful day. The weather was nice. Didn't rain.
And this was in October.
Yeah, this was
So
October.
it wasn't cold out.
No, it wasn't cold at all.
Okay.
That I can remember. It was a beautiful day.
So if anybody out there interested in information on the Million Man March, what should they look for when doing their own search? What do you recommend? Just a Google Million Man March 1995?
Yeah, just Google the Million Man March. As a matter of fact, I believe something may be on YouTube about it.
Okay.
So they can probably pull it up on YouTube. Just type in Million Man March or Google Million Man March and ask any questions it is that you need to ask.
So, during that time, what do you believe prompt Minister Farrakhan to call for the Million Man March? If we want to go back, because yes, it was a very nice event. Yes, they have different titles for it or what it was. If it was a march, if it was a rally, whatever. What do you think of the purpose? What's the reason that he wanted? Besides saying that, let me see if I could get 1 million black men in one place for peace, to show the world that we are about peace as well. Why do you think he wanted the Million Man March?
I think that was during a time where crack cocaine was running rapid in our neighborhoods.
Okay.
Fathers were going to prison by the thousands, and we didn't have that male figure in our household. And children were being raised by their mother or grandparents, or aunties and uncles, and we lost hope. We were losing hope, in our family, our children. We were losing our children. Mm-hmm. And that was the tipping point to me, that I thought that he needed to bring the men together and say, listen, we need to do this, and this. And because that was a dark time. The country was on edge a little bit back then. Again, drugs were a big problem in our community, and he wanted to help us. He wanted to say, hey, get the help if you need help. Take control of your families. And again, we were losing so many men to the prison system.
Black men.
Yeah, so many black men to the prison system that we were getting, again, 10, 15 years for a small amount of crack cocaine. And young men, older men, middle-aged men. We were losing our grandfathers, our uncles, our young men,
to the system.
Our brothers, to the system. And mothers were pretty much raising the kids, and we had no male role model.
So you think?
So I think that.
So you think he did it? So you're saying you think he did it to help us help ourselves?
Yes.
Show us
Yes.
that if you can form if you can come together from all over the world by any means necessary, because they came on trains, cars, buses, planes. The airport. This thing says that the airport was like ridiculous.
Oh yeah, the buses. Like I say, I can remember watching the buses for miles. You know, pulling in and parking, and just people getting off. Some were tired. But everyone was excited. You know, because they witnessed what I witnessed. You know, so.
So, do you remember any negative? Talk prior to, before, because you know the news, whatever. Do you remember any pushback?
I don't remember pushback, but I remember hearing, they're going to cause problems when they get 1 million black men together. There's going to be fights. There's going to be shootings and that was talk. The days and weeks leading up to this, saying they can't do it. This is going to happen. All negative. That's going to happen. This is going to happen, and we proved them wrong. Okay. We proved them wrong.
So music playing down.
Yep, I heard music.
So we were dancing like we were dancing.
Oh yeah, man! They had it on the loudspeakers. They had, like I said, they had singers there, speakers there. I want to say some type of dance performers or something. They had a combination of all kind of different events activities that went on down there. But good food was being sold at these vendors. Like I say, T-shirts, hats. And that's another thing. I don't think I purchased any hats or T-shirts. I wish I would have did that. So looking back, I missed my opportunity on photos, taking my kids, buying merchandises.
But the best experience was being there yourself.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sometimes the best experience, sometimes our joy as black people is from within. Yeah. History shows us from our ancestors that when we couldn't do anything else, when we couldn't speak, when we couldn't take pictures, when we didn't have phones to call, our joy, we expressed our joy through song and dance. So maybe that's why the music was playing on the loudspeakers. The everybody was hugging. You didn't really need to have conversation. They just had signs. Because it just goes to show how when we put our minds to doing something, that we can do anything.
It's true.
We can do anything that we want to do as black people. And for me, that's my black joy. Seeing that the way we were sitting at home. I remember watching it on CNN. CNN is one of the channels that showed it. And I even saw that in this paper. It said CNN and C-SPAN. Okay. And I remember saying, boy, my husband is there.
You was just excited as me.
I was just as excited as you were. And it was, from a viewpoint, it was absolutely a beautiful thing. And to us, and everybody that was sitting at home, and even men that didn't go, we believed it was more than 1 million people because the cameras could not capture. I saw no ground. I saw no street. I didn't see anything. So me asking you what you saw gives, it just confirms to me. We saw the speeches, and I just thought it was beautiful to see 1 million of our men, black men. That's the best thing ever. No violence. Even though they couldn't even make up reports of violence. Like none of that ever. And, I don't know about, I wish you had taken my 3-year-old to the Million Man March.
I wanted to.
I don't know about that, but
I regret it. I really, really wanted to take it.
The person that can tell us about the history is the most important thing to me is you and your account of it is perfect. And I just have one last question to ask. Of all the books you've read, of all the gatherings, all the Black history stuff you've ever read, is there anything in our history that you can relate to the Million Man March? Anything that was similar? Anything that you've read?
That was similar to the Million Man
The
March?
feeling you had? Nothing.
Nothing. I can't compare anything to the feeling that I had with the Million Man March in terms of reading.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I love Black history, so all Black history books are good to me. So
Okay. Okay, well, I guess if you have shared all that you remember, that was a long time. How many years was that ago?
that was what's that? 28.
28? 28 years?
Mm-hmm. That's 28
Oh. So, behind every great man, how important was it that women still attend?
How important was it that women still attended that march?
If ever another march, yeah. How was it important for you
For a woman to attend?
for women to have attended that march? Do you think that was a place for us?
Well, it was a Million Man March. That was the title of it. So I thought it was just a million men. And like I say, when I got there and I seen women walking around, and I did think, well, what is she doing here? And then I just moved on.
So
But I think that they wanted to see this thing for themselves. Is why I thought that they came.
that the women
They
came.
couldn't believe that it would happen, so they wanted to be a part of it, of witnessing it.
Okay.
So I think that's why they came.
You want to answer the last question. So the question is, if there was ever another march, how should it be emphasized? What would be the purpose? Like Louis Farrakhan, he emphasized unity and family. What do you think? And on top of that, to end it, who do you think the organizer should be?
I think it should be a combination of young people, along with older people.
Like who?
Great
Is there
thing.
anybody in mind?
I would say some of the young African American congressmen and representatives that throughout the country have them speak.
No,
Yeah.
who would organize it? What I mean is, like, Mr. Farrakhan called for the
Right.
organization
Who-
of Million Man March. What leader or who do you think?
Who do I think could possibly lead it now?
Who could get 1,000,000 men?
I don't think anybody can, to be honest with you. And I'm being honest with you. And that's the problem that we have in the African American country. We don't have strong leaders. It seemed like once Jesse got old and Reverend Isles is getting older, and we don't have that guy we can look up to. And I believe that's what's wrong with this country.
Okay.
Good question, but I don't think we could ever do it again. To
Okay.
be honest with you,
Okay.
I really don't think we could ever have a Million Man March. But if we did, what I would want them to focus on is youth. We're losing our youth like crazy. I mean, you turn on the news, 14, 15, 16, 17. So many youths are dying. It's catastrophic. And we got to change that. And we got to figure out where we can reach these youth.
Okay.
And until we do that, I mean, we're losing our generation, and we got to figure out a way that we can get to these youth, whether it be education, finding something that they like, and helping them. People, you can preach all day, but if it's not something that they like, find out what these kids want to do, and help them along the way. Everybody's not school material. It can't be go to this college. No. Find a trade, or music industry, or photography, carpenter, trade, any type of trade, and help them. We got to listen to the young people, and I think that's the problem. We got these guns on the street, we got these drugs on the street, and those combinations, and kids are dropping out of school. They're bored now. It's a sad situation, and we got to fix that.
Okay. Well, to close out our interview, I have one question for you, and I know you'll be able to answer this. What do you love most about our people, Black people?
I think that we're strong. We're one of the strongest, strong-minded people in the world. And if we stick together, we could be so powerful. But because because we don't have the resources, we miss out. And again, education, we have to educate ourselves. And I like the fact that it seems like Black women are more business oriented than Black males. We gotta
Why do you think that's so?
I think that women they stick to their goals more than Black men.
So historically, that has not from our ancestors, and men were the strong,
men were
the workers, the backbone of the family.
Women
So
were the head of the household.
do you still believe that men are just as important and the backbone of the family?
Yes, I do.
But it's just that you see women.
I see women taking charge more so than men. And to me, that's the biggest problem. I think we need strong Black men.
Okay.
To open up these businesses. I want us to have businesses. You don't have to be a professor or a doctor or a lawyer. Own your own business, whatever you want to do.
Just lead.
Just lead. Stick to it, lead. Be respectful. Be courteous. And good things will come.
Okay.
So.
Well, here's Black Joy at its finest right here, people. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Alrighty.